Why do so many people suck at defense in this game? It's such a simple concept in Valorant. Stop the other team from planting the spike or defuse it if they do. So in a desperate attempt to save your ranked experience from all those W key warriors full sending it into enemy crosshairs every single round, we're going to talk about the simple fundamentals of how 2022 world champions Loud play defense on ASCENT. After all, they won 79% of their defensive rounds on the map, a number that carried them to victory on the global stage. Let's start with some context. OPTIC led the map 7-5 at half, then they won their attacking pistol and subsequent anti-eco round to make it 9-5 in their favor. Loud started their first gun round off strong with an early pickoff in A main, but almost let it slip away when OPTIC pivoted through middle to B and exploded onto the site. Loud is barely able to limp out of the round with a single rifle, which puts them in a pretty dire situation for the following round. However, the main thing I wanted to highlight from this round is that first pickoff. Fighting for early space on defense is super important because it slows down the pace of the round for the attackers. The more time and utility you can force attackers to spend to gain ground towards the sites, the less you give them to actually secure the spike plant and the post plant. A strong duo setup like this KO and Omen gains early information with the KO knife, denies vision to the attackers with the Omen smoke, and forces the attackers to take a disadvantaged fight for the space. Since OPTIC are also spending resources and bodies to try and take this space, denying them makes the entire round much more difficult to play. And if you'll remember, that early player advantage ends up being the difference at the end of the round. However, many players take this early aggressive fight to an extreme and often mindless level, constantly tossing away rounds and forcing their teammates on the other side of the map to scramble to recover an unwinnable situation. I'm looking at you, Reyna, Jett, and Chamber players who insta-push every single round. To understand the correct way to integrate aggressive plays into a defensive half, we have to go to round 16, where Loud scrapes together an awkward bye after losing so many rifles previously. Because the bye is so rough, Loud makes the call to avoid playing a standard round where OPTIC's better armor, utility, and weapons can pick them apart. As soon as the barriers drop, Loud smokes off top middle, KO knifes B main, Omen flashes tiles, and they 4-man charge the attacker spawn on the B side of the map. Even though OPTIC's Killjoy is able to escape alive, Loud have instantly taken away half of the map from OPTIC, simplifying the round for themselves and actually finding the spike on the ground. This is a huge deal because OPTIC now have to fight all the way back through their spawn into a ton of bad angles to reclaim the spike. Even though OPTIC are able to sort of recover and find kills and then regain control of the spike, Loud has already burned a full minute off the clock and thrown the entire round into chaos. This puts a heavy mental pressure on OPTIC, and in the scramble to plant on the A site, Saucy is able to find a sneaky shot in the back which drops OPTIC to 3 players and increases the pressure on them. You can see the pressure and chaos getting to OPTIC as Marved and FNS both make very poor individual plays since they are unsure of where Loud can be due to the crazy earlier part of the round. While Ye is an incredible player, Loud's 2v1 trade is good enough to secure this crucial round. With OPTIC now in eco, Loud is able to push the map to a 9-8 scoreline before OPTIC finally fights back and makes it 10-8. In round 19, Loud finally has enough money to buy an operator, and we get the first look at their counter to OPTIC's consistent mid control. The operator is the most powerful tool for a defensive team because it provides so many opportunities to start rounds off with a player advantage, which we've already talked about as being so important. However, to consistently get value out of an operator, you need to pair it with a teammate who can break info utility like drones or darts so that the operator can stay on a line of sight early on. Also, by having someone else break the utility, you disguise where the operator is because the attackers can only hear a different gun shooting the utility. Even with the early operator pickoff, OPTIC is able to claw their way back into the round thanks to a crazy hero play from Ye. This breaks Loud's money and allows OPTIC to push their lead up to 12-8. OPTIC has put Loud on map point thanks to some hero plays by their Jett player, so it's about time for Loud to do the same. They aren't able to buy an operator to lock down middle, so they put Auspice on duty there to try and slow down what has been a pretty deadly B split for OPTIC so far. The round starts out looking like a disaster as OPTIC pushes Auspice into a corner, but he is still able to punish Ye's small mistake of only half clearing the angle, and then manages to blind spray down Victor, who follows to trade. Sometimes a good defensive hold starts with simply getting what you can out of a terrible situation. These 2 kills are enough damage to slow down OPTIC's momentum on the round, and without Jett or KO, it's almost impossible for OPTIC to push through the choke points against Loud's defensive setup. Loud then picks up the following anti-eco round, and also round 23 after Loud shows off the power of their mid operator and B main Odin setup for a quick 2-kill advantage to start that round. Round 24 demonstrates a super important defensive concept. If your defensive setups are stronger on one site than the other, you want to try to force the attackers into the stronger one by acting aggressively at the other site. Loud forces OPTIC out of A main with their Omen plus KO denial and threatens middle with the operator. We finally get to see the deadly efficiency of the Killjoy and Sova combo on B as OPTIC uses their Killjoy lockdown to try and brute force the B site, only to run directly into a seemingly endless spray of Odin bullets and perfectly placed Killjoy mollies. On to overtime. With Loud's B hold looking so scary, OPTIC tries to brute force the A site and avoid playing into Killjoy and Sova at B. This is a great time to gamble stack for the defenders because they have done such a good job of shutting down middle and the other site. Loud wins out the initial trades with their heavy rotations, but once again, Ye makes a great individual play and catches Loud off guard to save the round for OPTIC. After once again winning their attack round, Loud is on map point and OPTIC goes back to brute forcing A site. They clearly still believe it's easier than going into Killjoy and Sova, and Loud might not expect the same round twice in a row in overtime. This time Loud is not fully stacked at A, but they show off what might be the most important defensive concept yet by not fighting early and simply throwing utility to delay OPTIC's push. Knowing when to fall back to a more passive angle and just simply buying time for your teammates to rotate over is way more important than getting an early kill before losing the site when a full 5-stacked attack is coming at you. Loud rotates in and we get a great scan from Saucy that lets his Odin cause some huge problems for OPTIC as they scramble for site control. Then the Odin spray holds down A main while KO sweeps in from the tree smoke to clear out generator. Loud's use of timely aggression, power weapons, and firm map control allowed them to dictate how the attackers could play the rounds when it mattered the most, and this showed off exactly why they are the best defensive team on ASCENT in the entire world.